and one to my right through the door behind the municipal clerk's desk. It's nice being able to do this and not hit plexiglass. Anyway, our muster point is out front in the plaza. This room is also equipped with 2 panic buttons, so don't panic. Washrooms are out the back door at the end of the hallway and to your left, and this meeting will be live streamed and recorded for public viewing. Anyone making a presentation or approaching the council dais or administration table will appear on camera. Lastly, we ask that you please turn your cell phones on silent. And I'll look to Mr. Kelly to let me know when we are live. Oh. All right, I call to order this meeting of the Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. And we will start with a land acknowledgement. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor Crosser. Welcome to the town of Canmore. We are gathered here today in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. In the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge and appreciate that I live, work, and play on the traditional territories and home of the Stoney Nakoda Nations, Bearspaw, Wesley, Chiniki, the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Region 3 Métis Nation. I commit to working to live in right relations and to advance truth and reconciliation, and acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. I'm grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today, and those who have gone before us. As we now gather here, in the heart of this Treaty 7 territory, we acknowledge that we are all treaty people and have ongoing responsibilities to protect and honor all of life.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
And for those that don't know, Andrew Kelly is our Assistant Municipal Clerk, and so you will see him regularly here. Now we'll move to adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda circulated? Looking, seeing none. I'll move approval of the agenda for May 17th, 2022, Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And we've got a number of delegations. It's just our way of building up the audience, you know? So. First delegation, B1, Biosphere Annual Update. Mr. Thompson. Welcome to Council.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Just nice. All right.
You'll probably need to be closer to the mic. There, that's good.
Thank you very much. And it's never easy to figure out who to face and who not to face. So
there you go.
Thanks.
You're facing us.
Mayor Crosert, members of council, pleasure to be here. I'm Gareth Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley. Here with a quick presentation and a chance to answer any of your questions about what we're up to. So I'll just launch in here. Our board and staff, we are like yourselves. We're pleased to be meeting face to face. This is from the Zoom era, which we're still partially in. I'll point out for the benefit of council that bottom left we have Mayor Crosert, who sits on our board by virtue of our bylaws. Just to his right, there's Mayor John, ex-mayor, former Mayor John Borman, who's remaining on our sub. You may notice Lisa Roosevelt, who also helps govern our organization, as does Chip Oliver from the town of Banff. So we're privileged to have representation and guidance from all 3 municipalities in the Bow Valley, as befits our name, the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley. So I've been in the saddle since just January of this year, and I'm thrilled by the mission of the organization to empower community leadership to address environmental problems. And that is, in my view, it's an extremely powerful guiding principle for us, and giving the community exactly what it wants and what we need to address environmental problems. We are a not-for-profit. We are a charitable group. This is from our annual report, just showing the revenue sources, because I think that's an important part of the story. And I want to acknowledge that fully 40%, just over 40% of this circle diagram is municipal grants and contracts, the vast majority of which comes from the town of Canmore in the form of a grant, an annual grant that's given to our organization. And I want to say thank you to Council and Administration and Council particularly for your support of our organization, and assure you that, because you can see the other sectors there, we steadfastly lever every single dollar that the town of Canmore gets to try and attract foundation grants, to try and attract corporate grants. And so those dollars from the town of Canmore give not once but twice as we pay staff and leverage that to help make the world go around for our staff of 5 that we have with the Biosphere Institute. So like Council, we have a new strategic plan. Like Council's, it is a short, concise, and I believe a powerful plan. I was privileged to lead our team. You can see in this photograph, it's a hybrid team of both staff and board in both in-face and virtual. You can see the Zoom screen up there. And I'm thrilled to report we got her done in just 4 months. And we now have that new plan. Also of note here, you may recognize, the Biosphere Institute's offices on the second floor of the Senior Center. And those of you with long memories may recall that this is where the Municipal Council used to meet back in the day. So that's, complete with sloping walls and complete with pillars and the like. And interestingly, you can see me on the right-hand side of this photograph. And as I actually served as a member of Town Council for 3 years, 1992 to 95, and I'm currently sitting in that photograph about 1.5 meters from where I sat for 3 years on council. And Bert Dick was like just a few meters from there as he was the mayor at the time. And it's suffice it to say, Mr. Mayor and Council, that this is better. That was good. This is better. So about our programs, Wild Smart, I'll mention that Nick DeRuyter with Biosphere is here. Thanks, Nick. And just a thumbnail glimpse of what we do with Wild Smart and other programs. So beginning with Wild Smart. In that photograph, you may see the fabulous Mr. DeRuyter on the right-hand side. You may also see a bear, if you've got sharp eyes. And this is one of our programs that was done with an inclusion group from the city of Calgary, just to help them understand the notions of coexistence between humans and wildlife, how to travel safely in areas that are wild, how to respect bears, and so on. This is a photograph of Nick again with a pruning instrument. One of the things we do is we have a lending library for members of the community who want to do the right thing and quite possibly remove fruit from their trees and their shrubbery on their property. This last year that included mountain ash, because the bears were very hungry, and they chose to come to the mountain ash berries and on both town lands and private lands, unfortunately. So that's kind of a work in progress there. So we have the lending library. This is a bear spray training, which we do with inert bear spray just to help people understand that technology and encourage them to use it to keep them and wildlife safe. We have Wild Smart ambassadors, and here it's 2 of our fabulous ambassadors. And thanks, Mr. Mayor, for your acknowledgement of this group during the recent volunteer celebration here in town. Also galloping towards this, and very much on our mind, is the interesting challenge of recreation. This is a photograph showing, well, you can see about 100 cars in this photograph, and the Biosphere Institute are concerned that just because of the increasing recreational pressure in areas like Kananaskis country, which saw a doubling of visitation over the last few years, that there's a very real prospect of loving the ecosystem to death and destroying the goose that laid the golden egg when it comes to wildlife values and wilderness values. And so we're working hard with the province of Alberta. And I take heart in things like this, the human-wildlife coexistence document that was created by a roundtable that was created by through leadership of the town of Canmore back in 2018. both Biosphere Institute and indeed the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society and the Yellowstone to Yukon Conservation Initiative served on a technical committee that supported this work. We last did our work in 2019. That initiative has gone into quiescence. We're hoping there's an uptick in activity, and because there's much work to be done. We're hoping that recreation can be added as an agenda item to the work of this human and wildlife coexistence group, and we're also hoping that that the wisdom of groups like Yellowstone to Yukon and CPAWS, and I would say too Biosphere, can be brought to bear on this really important challenge of ensuring human and wildlife coexistence in perpetuity. Happy to answer questions about that. I'll just move on to our program that has to do with SHIFT. The shift in question is the shift to climate transition. And we were pleased to help create the Bow Valley Green Energy Cooperative. You may notice that the Ralph Connor Church is the beneficiary of the first initiative by the cooperative. You'll see the solar panels there. Coming soon, that's a photograph of the first ever convening in 2020 of the community around climate. This one was led by the Banff Camera Community Foundation. We're going to pick up where they left off. We're going to work with the community to accelerate climate action in the Bow Valley and working with different sectors, seeking co-benefits, multi-solving, seeking to solve both social problems and climate problems and ensuring a just and equitable climate transition. I'm privileged to work with the town of Canmore on this. So on the top row, that's Biosphere staff. The bottom row are key town of Canmore staff, including Lisa Brown, Director of community programming here, and just to ensure that we get it right when it comes to the just and equitable approach to climate. We hope to convene the community, funding permitting, this September. I'll also mention this. I think Council may have received an invitation to attend just this morning by email, actually. That's May 28th, just to celebrate electrical vehicles as part of our work. I'm cognizant of the time. We have a Future Leaders program that deals with education. Here's Nick with some future leaders, and it's essential that we give these children some knowledge about the environment and the gift of hope as we help them roll up their sleeves, like my sleeves, roll up their sleeves and do something to help change the world for the better. As David Orr says, hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up, and we want to encourage that action, thoughtful, well-informed action by youth. About relationships here, and I'm kudos to you for flagging that as one of 3 pillars of your strategic plan. We're privileged to work with the Bow Valley Builders and Developers Association on their sustainability committee as a full member. We help inform the work of the Tourism Canmore, Kananaskis. We have other, you all have received the annual plan, so those are. And I'll just end with this, and just bear with me. I have 30 more seconds. So we live in a complex community, and we all know if you mapped out this community in which we live, it would be this astoundingly complex map, and it's no small challenge to know what to do to forge ahead together in concert. And as someone who really thinks about that sort of dynamic, all I know is this: my simple and incomplete solution to a complex problem is to go for beer. And that's why I'm pleased to invite both council and administration to join us for a convening of the environment community. Anyone who's even remotely green, and that includes pretty much everyone in the town of Canmore. Last Friday of every month at 5 p.m. at the Wood in Canmore, we just gather and talk and have a beverage and just talk about how we can change the world for the better and ensure a successful coexistence and a sustainable progress here in the Bow Valley. There's my coordinates. Happy to address any questions that council might have. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for that presentation and visiting us with a very comprehensive update. Thank you very much. Looking to council to see if there are any questions. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for your presentation and your work with the Biosphere. Are there any other challenges or unexpected scenarios or issues that COVID kind of pulled the veil back from that we might need to have on our radar as a community?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I've been really impressed by how much the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley kept on keeping on during the COVID years. I wasn't part of the team then. And I would say that, you know, one of the challenges is the only challenge I want to flag is that we're surrounded by insurmountable opportunity. Like, everyone wants to attend things. Our work with climate is going to be, I think, very timely, and there's a lot of passion around that. And the chance to meet together to form relationship, which is way better done face-to-face than over Zoom. And then relationship before task is kind of what staff and I keep in mind as we do our work. Forge those relationships and get the work done together and deliver on mission, I suppose, of championing, supporting community champions and empowering community champions to address environmental problems. Did that answer your question?
Yep, yeah. You just never know what a circumstance that you didn't expect will reveal about the situation. Like, I never thought we'd be in a position to have a pedestrianized Main Street in 2022, but here we are.
Wonderful.
Awesome. And I'm really supportive of both the WildSmart activities, but also the youth engagement and education. I look back to my youth and the environmental education that I received from teachers like yourself, and that's part of the reason why I'm still here and fighting for that, so thank you.
And I know that about you. Thank you very much, Councillor Faubert.
Any other questions? Councillor Graham.
Just a statement today. I just want to thank you and all of your crew for the work that you guys do. It is valuable, it is much needed, and very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham.
Okay, if I can just quickly respond, you know, this is a time of wonderful opportunity. We have, quite frankly, a very kind of a dream council on the environment file. The staff of the town of Canmore are super, like, I can't say enough. They really are fantastic. And every time I come up with some idea about something new, well, guess what? The staff have already been thinking about that for 6 months to a year. It just never stops. And so these are good times. I think we're well positioned to do some good work. And thank you for your comments, Councillor Graham.
And seeing no other questions, I will echo those comments and thank you and the Biosphere and all of its programs for all the work that's being done in the Bow Valley. And keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cheers.
We'll now move to the next delegation, B2, the Bow Valley Climate Action Society.
Good afternoon, Mayor Cressert and members of council. I am Amy Fournier. I am your Energy and Climate Action Coordinator, and I'm doing a brief introduction for the delegation from the Bow Valley Climate Action Society. So the society, also known as BVCA, are a group of volunteers dedicated to meaningful local climate action. They, since their inception, have been working collaboratively with the town to help advance our community towards our greenhouse gas reduction targets. The delegation today is in response to the January 18th report I presented to the Committee of the Whole on the work done to date on our climate action plan and the status of the 65 actions in that plan. So they would like to recognize the work that has been done by the town and highlight some of the initiatives that their volunteers have been doing in the community to support the climate action plan. They would also like to share with council the priorities for the remaining actions that they view as really key to us meeting our 2030 greenhouse gas reduction targets. So now I'll hand it off. I would like to introduce the delegation that's representing Bow Valley Climate Action. We have Ruth Suffield, Jody Conuel, and Diana McGibbon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fournier, and welcome to council for the delegation from BVCA. Ms. Suffield, welcome.
Thank you. Does it matter that I can see it?
Oh, there we go.
All right, sorry. Thank you, Ms. Fournier. Thank you, Mayor Krausert and councillors for your time today. I am Ruth Suffield. I'm here today with fellow BVCA board members, Jody Conwell and Diana McGibbon, who will speak after me. As Ms. Fournier has just mentioned, our goal is to promote individual and collective action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the Bow Valley. We have run a number of community and educational events to promote climate-inspired conversations around buildings, vehicles, and food. If you're interested in learning more about our events, you can find recordings on our website or attend our upcoming event on May 25th about food and our carbon footprint. We would also like to acknowledge the grants we have received from Banff Canmore Community Foundation, the Town of Canmore, the Town of Banff, and the Town of Banff to support us with our work. Today, we would like to talk about what is being done and what can be done to meet our 2030 greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. Firstly, I would like to emphasize that we all have a role to play in achieving these targets. It is our responsibility as individuals, businesses, organizations, and decision makers. Each of our 3 levels of government have essential roles to play in setting policy and regulations that move our society towards our emission reduction targets. We do not expect you as our municipal elected officials and our municipal staff to solve the climate crisis single-handedly. We do ask that you do absolutely everything you can to lead us as a community through this climate crisis. Your leadership is essential. We are here today to celebrate the actions the Town of Canmore has taken thus far. We are also here to ask in the strongest, most urgent, and most respectful manner that the Town of Canmore and its citizens do everything we can to work together to meet our 2030 reduction targets, and then to move on to meeting our 2050 targets. With this aim in mind, we have 3 priority actions for the Town of Canmore to take. First, by the first quarter of 2030, we ask you to create a detailed roadmap and schedule showing how the town as a corporation and community will achieve the 2030 emission goals. Second, we ask you to consider greenhouse gas emissions within all town decisions. Here I would like to clarify, by asking you to use a climate lens, we do not mean to diminish the other challenges our community faces, such as affordable housing, labor shortages, and human-wildlife conflict. Rather, we believe the climate crisis is related to all the challenges we face. We ask that the decision-making process reflect the urgency of the situation as stated by the declaration of a climate emergency. Third, given that tackling the climate crisis involves all of us, we feel that an essential step to making these targets is to more actively communicate the work that you are doing and are planning to do with the community. In order to complete this review, we went back through the Climate Action Plan in detail. We collaborated with the town administration to have the best possible understanding of what is being done currently, and we researched what other communities are doing. We have organized this review around 5 categories as seen on the slide. Oops. No, as no longer, okay.
We'd like to start by applauding the town for creating a climate action plan, for recognizing the significance of the issue by declaring a state of emergency, and for creating a permanent climate action position staffed by the amazing Amy Fournier. Despite these steps, we as Bow Valley Climate Action believe there needs to be much more detailed and cohesive planning moving forward. The Climate Action Plan states that the opportunities within it be viewed as a preliminary step towards a climate resilient future, and that the action plan itself should be reviewed every 5 years. A review is now due. Therefore, we wish to see in 2023 the creation of a detailed roadmap showing how the town will achieve its 2030 emission reduction goals. We would like this roadmap to include definitive interim targets with biennial progress reports published for the community to see. The action plan is a stand-alone document. However, it is important that climate mitigation is integrated into all aspects of town policies and administrative processes. A great way to do this would be to bring the town's sustainability lead to the management decision-making table. Next up, a major opportunity we have to reduce both municipal and community emissions is to make buildings more energy efficient. We would like to thank the town for working to implement the Clean Energy Improvement Programme, for leading by example and designing the new fire hall to near net zero standards, and for adjusting Fortis franchise fees to generate funding for climate action initiatives. To continue reducing building emissions, we're asking that the town work on developing a municipal sustainable building policy with a goal of net zero emissions for all new corporate buildings, including new Vital Homes housing projects. After all, energy efficiency and affordability go hand in hand. Alongside this, the town really should be investigating and implementing relevant energy efficiency retrofits in town-owned and operated buildings. We would also like to see the town direct its legal counsel team to review the town's ability to legislate for energy efficiency in new developments. We ask that the town advocates for the adoption of the 2020 National Building Code here in Alberta. Based on a step code model, it is a significant tool to encourage higher efficiencies in new buildings. And finally, the town has shown leadership in the area of energy efficient buildings and design, and we believe these achievements should be celebrated more widely. Please show our community the feasibility of these designs here in our mountain environment. The third area we analysed is the realm of renewable energy. We recognise that the town has shown significant leadership in this area with the ongoing corporate installations of solar energy systems and the oversubscribed solar rebate programme. We would now like to see the town use renewable energy not only to power buildings, but also to heat and to cool them. Recognising that major opportunities in the renewable energy sector include designing and installing district heating, we're asking that the town conduct a community-wide district energy feasibility study to understand the potential for these systems here in Canmore, and where applicable, help establish projects as economically justified.
So transportation's an area where we feel the town has made a significant effort to reduce emissions by encouraging multimodal transportation. Just some of the things we applaud the town for include having an integrated transportation plan that sets goals for active and public transportation and encourages the development of complete streets, offering free roam transit and adding an e-bus to the fleet, improving cycling and walking infrastructure, prioritizing the safety of pedestrians and cyclists at the Tip 20 intersection, and setting a budget to develop a community EV strategy. That said, there are additional transportation initiatives that could be considered. Just as it's done downtown, the town could set a 30-kilometer-per-hour speed limit on all neighborhood streets to encourage more walking and cycling. It could update and enforce the anti-idling bylaw. NRCan has some great resources on its site to describe what makes a good bylaw. So for example, the town could consider setting a shorter idling period with fewer exceptions. And even just giving warnings would help people change their idling habits. Town could also investigate and support bike and car share opportunities. For example, we could pair bike sharing rental service with intercept parking, and local hotels could also be encouraged to participate in such a program. Last but not least, we reviewed waste management initiatives. We applaud the town for increasing the number of residential composting bins, as well as for launching a commercial food waste composting program. However, there's still more that could be done to reduce emissions associated with community waste. For example, the town could implement policies to increase the separation of construction and demolition waste so it can be reused and recycled rather than landfilled. It could also make commercial composting mandatory by 2025 and continue to add more residential food waste bins to make it as easy as possible for residents to divert organic waste. We'd like to conclude our presentation by stressing again that people want to be involved and are willing to support the town as it moves to its 2030 and 2050 emissions targets. But regardless of what specific measures are undertaken to reduce community emissions, achieving our targets is far more likely to happen if the town does three things. First, and most important, establish a detailed roadmap with interim goals. Second, make climate considerations central to all town decisions. And finally, engage the community. It's critical that we keep our momentum going by letting community members know what's been done, what's planned, and how Canmore is progressing towards its goals. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you to the three of you for showing an excellent passing of the baton and meeting the 10-minute timeline without skipping a beat between presenters. Truly a skill, you could take it on the road. Before opening up to questions, and I really appreciate you coming and making the presentation, and I like the balanced approach of recognizing what's going well and then providing some suggestions going forward. So with this, I had asked administration to provide some notes on this presentation because there was a few things that I could address right now, but and there will be further coming out in time to come. So I just wanted to highlight a few things. With regards to the top three asks that you had, creating a detailed roadmap, this work is in progress. The Energy and Climate Action Coordinator has been developing a schedule and a high-level estimates of potential GHG reduction for each action. However, there's a number of reasons why it hasn't been brought forward just yet. A couple of them I'll highlight. We're hoping very soon that the province will approve the building code. The building code obviously has a great impact on new build and the projections within the report. The other thing is that the completion of a renewable energy feasibility study, which is ongoing, is needed in order to determine the GHG potential of a few actions highlighted in the Climate Action Plan. So that work's ongoing, and stay tuned. With regards to considering climate when making all town decisions, this is, I can tell you, it's very much ingrained in the lens through which we look at things. However, we could incorporate this in a more formal way using language to help showcase that to the public. And then that brings us to the third item of the actively communicate with the broader community on progress. I think that there is work to be done here. And thank you for emphasizing that for us. The 2021 Citizens Perspective Survey showed that there was a lot of people that were not satisfied with our services around climate change. And I think a lot of this has to do about lack of awareness. And so we really can do better in that regard. A few other things, just picking out a few here. Moving to a report every 2 years. Currently, administration reports on GHG emissions every 3 years. However, moving to every 2 years is possible. And around energy efficiency and conservation, we're developing a goal of a near or net zero emissions for new municipal buildings. This has happened in practice, as you mentioned, with the fire hall, but we could have this put into a formal policy. So that's an interesting point that you raise. With regards to energy efficiency retrofits of municipal buildings, there was a point raised by administration that there is approved budget for a study on renewable energy and energy efficiency for water and wastewater utilities. Now, this is important because water and wastewater infrastructure accounts for 40% of corporate GHGs. And the last energy efficiency audit was completed in 2018, and some of the low-hanging fruit was implemented at that time, but this is coming to the forefront again. Interesting with directing legal counsel to review regulation of energy efficiency, because of course buildings are Canmore's largest source of GHGs. However, we can't regulate to a higher standard than that which is in the Safety Codes Act, which governs building code standards in Alberta. So that's why we really need those codes to catch up with what we need them to be, right? Around transportation, there was a couple points here. The 30 kilometers an hour, that is currently in the downtown core as mentioned. It's also identified in our integrated transportation plan of moving to more areas of town with 30 kilometers an hour. And so engineering is moving towards implementation of speed limits set out in the integrated transportation plan, and items will be brought forward to council for consideration in 2023. Idling is a tough one. We have the regulation already that you can't idle for longer than 5 minutes, some vehicles being excluded. Currently, our enforcement is reactive because and complaint-based, because it's very tough to do that with the resources we have to go out and enforce beyond that. Around investigating car and bike share opportunities, bike share programs have been previously investigated by economic development, and investigation of a car sharing program is currently in the 2023 work plan. And that's going to be done by the Energy and Climate Action Coordinator. Should say with the separation of construction, renovation, demolition waste, options will start to be explored in late 2023 or 24. Depends on staff capacity, but that's in the work plan as well. And we will continue to roll out additional residential compost bins. There's another 9 that have been approved in this budget, and I understand they've just been received, and they are currently being wrapped, and they will be installed in due course afterwards. So anyway, those are just a few points to the excellent points that you brought up, and with that, I will turn to questions from Councillor McCallum.
Thank you. It actually wasn't a question. I just wanted to add that in the 2021-2024, yeah, those are the right years, Rome strategic plan is the investigation of relationship with alternative modes such as car share, bike share, gondola. I'm not sure about the gondola. Car share, bike share, car share, bike share.
Just on that note, the gondola is the province decision. Please direct all comments. Looking to any other comments or questions. Councillor Ma.
Thank you so much for your presentation, guys. Question for perhaps one of the Freeview, where it's Ms. Suffield or Ms. McKibben, et cetera. When you guys talk about it, communicating with the broader community about these various initiatives, what do you feel are some good mediums and channels for us to be more effective in that way? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Ma. I mean, there's lots of different options available, but I think a lot of people don't necessarily follow the town on their own social media channels. So it would potentially be looking outside of those particular channels, working with partner organizations such as the Biosphere and other organizations that people are slightly more likely to follow, even groups like local cycling groups and mountain biking groups and all those people who actually have the followers, perhaps communicating with those guys and seeing if you can get your message out through different channels than your sort of regular ordinary channels. One thing we did notice when we were researching for this presentation is we had to dig a lot and we had to talk to Amy quite a lot to actually find out the information, and we didn't know some of the things that Mayor Krausett just mentioned. So there's definitely room for opening up communication channels in alternative forms other than just using the town's platforms, and obviously the Outlook is a good platform too, but we know that you use that one already. So.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Councillor Graham.
Thank you all for your presentation. Well done. I wanted to chat. We just signed on to the food charter and talking about full food systems, and one of the points you brought up was around commercial composting. And I wonder if you could enlighten us a little bit more on where we're at with that, what the community might be looking for, and how we can move that one along much quicker.
Thank you, Councillor Graham, for your question. What I understand is that we currently are trying to engage businesses to voluntarily participate in a commercial food diversion program. What I understand is that there are 2 things that need to happen. First, the landlords need to provide a bin, and then second, the business needs to actually use that bin. So I guess what I have learned through this process is that Banff is in the process of requiring landlords to actually provide a bin, but then there needs to be that second step of businesses actually deciding to use it and perhaps being required to use it, as we suggested in our presentation. And the reason we suggested maybe not 2023 or 2024 was, we do understand that businesses are coming out of a difficult time, but we felt that by 2025, it would be feasible to make this mandatory for local businesses.
So it's staffing the energy to actually separate and move it into a bin.
That's part of what we understand is some of the difficulty is you know, restaurants are short-staffed. And so
We're
there
all
is
short-staffed.
Yeah, there is that aspect of having to sort the waste that is an extra step for people. But you know, I think it's just this is one area where the gases that come from food that goes into the landfill are particularly noxious. It's methane, and it's super important that we do everything we can to get those out of the landfill. So
I would agree. Thank you.
thanks.
So that suggests also that there's probably a role for all of us to play in encouraging businesses, advise them of the benefit to our climate, and to encourage them to do so. Yeah. I don't see any other questions. So once again, thank you for coming and visiting us today and providing us these excellent suggestions. And it's my sincere hope that that building on this, there will be increased communication lines. I think that there's definitely a willingness by everybody to do so, and we're all going in the right direction. And it's good to have somebody come and just advise us where they think that we're doing really well and where we could do better. So thank you. I'm now going to move to the next delegation, B3, Parks Canada Prescribed Burn Projects. Who will be speaking to that?
Hi there, that'll be me, David Tavernini. I'm just connected virtually, and I'm just trying to start my video, but I'm hoping I can get some IT support on that.
We'll just wait for a moment while the room clears out and we get you up on screen.
Perfect, sounds great. Let me know when you're...
Yeah, it'll just be a moment, Mr. Tavernini.
We're not yet.
Okay. All right. All right, I think we're ready to proceed. Looks like you're sharing your screen. Mr.
Yeah, do you see the full presentation screen?
No, we just see a wonderful picture of a very, very good-looking council. There we go. There we go. Something's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Tavernini, is your camera on? Oh, there we see you now. Okay, we can now see your screen. Welcome to council.
Everybody see my presentation and hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, things are a little choppy on my end, but I copy that coming clearly.
Yeah. Mr. Tavernini, we're having trouble hearing you now.
Started. My name is David Tavernini. I'm the Fire Management Officer for the Banff Field Unit within Banff National Park. And can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is David Tavernini. I'm the Fire Management Officer for the Banff Field Unit within Banff National Park. And I'm here today to inform Council on the prescribed fires we currently have ready for implementation as early as this year and what might be expected by the town of Canmore. We currently have 5 fire plans that are in place, which are shown on the map in the screen. So for reference,
Mr. Tavernini.
Canmore, town of Banff. The black line is the Trans-Canada Highway, and those. Yep.
Yeah, I know I had asked you to turn your camera on, but perhaps if you turn your camera off, you might have more bandwidth because you'll be going along fine and then all of a sudden you'll cut out.
Okay, let's try that out.
Yeah, there.
Seem to off now. Oh, there.
All right, please proceed.
Okay, so the map I have on the screen is showing the location of the 5 prescribed fires we have in place. So the first I want to start off with are 3 prescribed fires we have in the remote backcountry to the north of the highway. So 2 of these are meadow burns, are Elk Peak and Wigmore Meadows. Both of these are located 15 and 30 kilometers north of the town of Banff. Both of these burns are to restore meadow grasslands for wildlife habitat and are low complexity, low to moderate intensity in fire behavior. And we also have the dormer, which has been approved for quite some time now and just waiting for the weather window. It's located 30 kilometers to the north of Lake Minnewanka. Similar to the other burns, very remote, fairly low complexity. Dormer is much larger at about just shy of 7,000 hectares and has more of the goal of opening up a very closed, dense forests in the valley while reducing the risk of wildfire entering neighboring agency lands. But all 3 of these prescribed fires are scheduled for spring or fall timing. As I mentioned, these 3 are fairly remote, low complexity. But the one thing that in the valley orientation, town of Canmore expect some visible smoke in the distance, but because of the distance, there aren't anticipated impacts to air quality that are expected. I realize that this is a pretty quick overview of these 3, but given the low complexity nature and remote nature of them, I wanted to make sure I had time to get to the other 2 that I have present today. Put the page link for information for folks if they would like to read more about these prescribed fires. We also have 2 prescribed fires planned for the front country, and that's the main reason why I'm here today. So the first one is Meadows. As you may have noticed, we completed some prescribed fire in this location a little over a week ago. But as early as this fall, we plan to complete the other subunit, which is just south of the highway. I've shown a map here that has 2 units. So the red outlines the unit planned. For reference, you have the Trans-Canada Highway in the middle. You have the map along the Canada Highway range, industrial area to the bottom left, and then tunnel mountain area to the bottom right. Again, so the purpose of this burn is to restore aspen grassland, but will contribute significantly to reducing the risk of wildfire to the town of Banff. Generally, these burns are low to moderate intensity burns, but given the proximity to the Banff town site and highway, town of Canmore may get visitors or residents asking questions as smoke and flame may be visible from the highway. Being in the main Bow Valley, there could be smoke in the air as well. The unit is relatively quite small, so not as much time is anticipated to conduct the remaining prescribed fire. It's about just shy of 90 hectares remaining. But we do try and target good weather windows with good atmospheric venting. So that in conjunction with precipitation following to minimize the amount of time burning so that that can mitigate for any smoke impacts. In terms of highway safety, as part of our prescribed fire planning process, we developed a traffic management strategy to ensure the safety of motorists and visitors. And then lastly, last burn I have to present here today is the Fairholme 2 burn. This is located just west of the park boundary. So the map on the screen shows the planned units. For reference of the town of Canmore in the bottom right, Lake Minnewanka at the top of the screen, and the black line is Trans-Canada Highway. And as you can see, the planned area stretches from the east park boundary up towards Johnson Lake. It stretches across the bench. In total, this is about 4,500 hectares as a follow-up to the initial burn in 2003. This will help improve habitat, but really serves as a key fuel bank for the town of Canmore and Harvey Heights communities in the event of a future wildfire. So for those that remember 2003, there was a first iteration of this burn. It was burned in the spring. There's quite a bit of smoke. But as part of our adaptive management, we learned from that first iteration, and we'll take some steps to try and mitigate for these impacts. So those major differences between this iteration is the timing and the amount of fuel that's being burned in the prescribed fire unit. The plan for this burn is that we'll first burn Unit A in the spring or fall. So this area, the photo shows the area that was logged prior to the 2003 implementation. And this area, or this burn, will be reburned to remove the fuel so that we have a fuel break to safely burn units B and C shown on the map here and ensure that the communities are held safe. Units B and C will be burned in the fall. And like I said, the reburn has significantly less fuel than 2003. And given this fall timing, we'll hopefully mitigate for a prolonged smoke impact. Like other prescribed fires, we try to target weather windows with venting and precipitation afterwards. So being a fall burn, we would aim to have snow or sleet afterwards that will help attenuate any sort of smoke and reduce duration. That said, this burn is still quite large and very visible to the town of Canmore and from the highway. So communications and preparation will be crucial. Being right next to the highway, similar to those prescribed fire that I just showed, we also have developed a traffic management plan to ensure the safety of motorists. And due to the proximity of the park boundary next to the Trans-Canada Highway and multiple jurisdictions, the prescribed fire is highly complex and has so far and will continue to involve Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, Town of Canmore, Town of Banff, and Alberta Parks to coordinate operationally. And because of the complexity and the visibility, we would like to work together with the Town of Canmore to get the communications out to the public in a coordinated fashion. Yeah, so this is a lot of information into 10 minutes, I realize that, but I would like to close off with some of the avenues to get more information and to reach out if you have any other concerns or input after we're done here. I've put up our restoration webpage as well as social media key avenues of our communications, but I've also listed the contact information of our fire communications officer, Alex. If you have any questions after fact, please do reach out. Also have various notification lists that we communicate from the office could certainly help with the route if there's any interest. And so I would really like to thank you for the time today and would like to open it up the floor for any questions or comments.
Great, thank you very much. There was a few times that cut out, but I think we got most of the messaging, and the slides were excellent. So thank you very much, Mr. Tavernini. I will look to council to see if there's any questions. Councillor Graham.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Obviously, we're focusing mostly on the northeast side of the valley, which was burned a while back, 2003. And I'm wondering what the other side of the highway, any plans there in the near future?
Right now, I can't speak to that area per se. It is as part of our broader fire management planning. We do look at the landscape as a whole to strategically implement any wildfire risk reduction or prescribed fire plans. And so I can certainly look into that, and if there's any more information we can provide you on that, I can follow up.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Ma.
Thank you for your presentation. With respect to the Fairholme 2 burn, you're talking about there might be a minor burn conducted in the spring of 2022. So that's just like in the next couple of weeks here. At this point, how likely do you think that might happen?
Sorry, I do want to clarify there. So the timing could be spring or fall, but it won't be this spring. So it'll be either this fall or spring of 2023.
Okay, I was just looking on the website you linked and said a minor burn might be in the spring of 2022, so I was just curious. Thank you.
Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Mr. Tavernini. I'm curious, given the effects of climate change, how often do you find that in the spring and fall the prescription to burn is available to you? And how far in advance are you aware that you have the conditions you need?
Yeah, so as we're probably all familiar with, weather forecasting can be pretty difficult. We do try and watch the weather closely and look for consistent patterns or confidence among our weather models. But notice ahead of time in terms of weather windows approaching. We do try and target as early as we possibly can. But sometimes those windows can come on short notice. So, in a matter of, there's a lot of preparation leading up to the burn, of course, but as we start nearing the weather windows, it could be a matter of a few days that we're aware of and have a lot of confidence in the weather that's incoming.
Great, thank you. Any other questions of council? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today, Mr. Tavernini, for that update.
Yeah, thank you all, and thank you for your time.
Yep. We'll now move to Delegation B4, Boardwalk, introduction of new owners of peaks. Welcome to council.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us. We reached out, or were reached out to by administration to just make a brief introduction from ourselves to you, just to introduce who Boardwalk is. We're the new owners of the Peaks. I'm Jeff Klaus. I'm Vice President of Asset Management and Development. And I have Andrew.
I'm Andrew Christopher, and I am a Community Director for the Bow Valley area and south end of Calgary.
And we do have a short PowerPoint as well, so I think that's just going to be coming up. No, we emailed it. Yeah. While we're getting that set up, we can just give a quick introduction. So we closed on the Peaks project on March the 30th of this year. So we acquired it from another entity. A little bit of background about Boardwalk REIT. We're a real estate investment trust. We're listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And we're based in Calgary. We're an Alberta company that's started in the 90s. And we have a portfolio that spans across the country. We're very heavily concentrated in Alberta. This is our home. This is where we live. And this is where we make communities. We're super passionate about the communities in which we invest. And so it was great to have this ability to introduce ourselves just really as neighbors. We've been operating in the Bow Valley, making Canmore a little bit of a pit stop as we drive out to Banff. We've had investments out there for many years. And Andrew is our operations leader that oversees that. But yeah, really, Boardwalk is, our purpose is to provide communities and housing for all of our neighbors, yours, mine. in the communities that we represent. We do look for mixed types of investments insofar as we have 3 brands, a living, a lifestyle, and communities brands for 3 different socioeconomic demographics. All that being said, even our highest end offering, that is, you know, the newest communities, highest end finishes, highest end amenities, we really call those affordable luxury. Because we do realize that all of us, especially lately with inflation and the other cost pressures, living is very expensive. So we are trying to address that section of individuals that have renting as an option as well, and just providing really good management to those residents. And that's why we wanted to introduce Andrew as well. We pride ourselves on professional property management. All the assets that we own, we manage those in-house. So we manage parking, we manage security, we manage maintenance, suite turnovers, rent collection, everything, and that's Andrew and Andrew's team. So Andrew, maybe you can share a little bit about our mission, vision, and values. I know you don't have the PowerPoint in front of you, and we can email that out to you all as well with our contact info. And yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit about your day-to-day.
Absolutely. So our mission is to provide quality rental communities to all of our residents. Like Jeff mentioned, we are very hands-on. We take a very hands-on approach. As Jeff mentioned again, we own and manage everything that we look after, and we really value the community. And all of our properties are actually called communities because it is a community. It's part of a city or a town, and we look at all aspects from suite turnovers to the day-to-day maintenance, cleaning, just making sure that everything is looking good, and our residents are proud to call Boardwalk home. And for our family, you know, it is a family. We're a very tight-knit group, and we really transpire that through our community as well.
Yeah, and so a little bit, maybe Andrew, this morning we drove up to Banff, and we have 2 communities there, Elk Valley Estates and Mountain View as well, which we acquired just a couple of years ago. And my side of the business is more on the investment, development, and asset management side. So on asset management, I overview performance of our assets and look at strategies to invest in all of our assets going forward. So that's definitely looking at repairs, maintenance, and future investments, which is fairly significant for us on an annual basis. We spend about $130 million investing in all our communities. So that's anything from, you know, turning over a suite, putting in new cabinets and flooring, to painting, but then also large capital projects. About half of those funds are for large capital projects, for paving, new roofs, new envelopes, and windows, and so forth. And then development and construction, that falls under my department as well. So where we do have communities, we do look at growing and expanding. So actually Canmore was really strategic for us. We've been looking at investing in Canmore, and we're really pleased to have the opportunity here. We've been looking over a number of years. It's not necessarily easy to make investments, but this one certainly worked. It helped us be able to leverage our employees out of both centers and just provide higher level of service, really, you know, from snow clearing. We're doing that in-house as opposed to contract basis. That way we can really oversee the quality and timeliness of those items. But then also looking at expanding. So we do have one of our sites in Banff is about, what was it, 8 acres?
8 acres, yeah.
8 acres. And a really low number of units per acre. It's about 81 units, yep, I believe, so 10 units per acre. And certainly we're chatting with the town of Banff just on how we can provide a little bit more housing and supply. One of our first investments in affordable housing, traditionally my job, I've been at Boardwalk for many years, just over 20 years. I started when I was 12, so. But actually our first foray into construction and development was actually partnering with province of Alberta, and so we delivered a 109 unit project in Calgary where we had 50% affordable housing. which we partner with the Alberta government. So we're looking at different ways of doing that, and we've developed, we're currently under development in the GTA area, and we have 3 different developments on the way in Victoria, and then a number in Quebec City and Regina and Saskatoon as well. But where we do have excess land, we look at ways of adding on to those, whether it's acquiring sites next door or a little bit further afield, but we can really use our workforces really efficiently. Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about our ESG and affordability strategy?
Absolutely. So it's a very important topic, and we have an internal group for our ESG group. I'm fortunate enough to be on that sustainability group, and we are looking at aspects from window replacements to boiler upgrades to lighting upgrades, looking at every and all opportunities to reduce our carbon footprint, and we are taking a look at some new initiatives as well in town. So one of the things we talked about yesterday was looking at battery pack backpack blowers. It's something that's it's a topic that's right now in Calgary. So we're looking at that initiative as well in our town, or in Calgary, testing that out instead of running gasoline backpack blowers, which are fairly noisy and contribute emissions as well. So we're looking at different ways to be more efficient and more effective in our communities. For example, Peak has LED lighting in the hallways. It also has automatic dimmers, so after a certain point, it actually draws down power. So it's helping reduce energy consumption as well in our community. So, and we're looking at this across, not just in Calgary, but across the country as well. So it's a great platform and a great opportunity.
Other than that, so for on the ESG side, we, being a public company, we did publish last year for 2021 our GRESB statement, and so that's available on our website. And we're really using that to benchmark against ourselves to improve each year. And so on the new development side, where each new project we bring on, we look for ways. Energy is our number 2 line item on our NOI and profitability. So high energy prices impact us directly. We do also do sub-metering investments where we allow our resident members to pay for how much they use, so they're not subsidizing their next door neighbor or vice versa. So we make investments in that. We also really are community focused and community based. Many of our associates live in the communities that we have as well, and we give back. So even for the Ukraine situation, we have invested primarily in housing grants for refugees. And yeah, we continue to look at other ways to support our community members. So we have food pantries that we've rolled out across the country, and also scholarships to not only employees but also our resident members. Actually, yeah, that was a big introduction. The scholarships actually getting rolled out to all our community members going forward here. And then also, yeah, we've heard about staffing. We're all struggling for that, and it is a challenge. We're there too, but Boardwalk really invests in its people as well. I've been there over 20 years. Andy, I know you've been at Boardwalk a long time, but no, we invest in our people. We give them opportunities, and we want to see them succeed as well, because the only way we can succeed is if our residents succeed and are happy, and we're almost on time.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. There you go. Well, Mr. Klaus and Mr. Christopher, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm sorry that the technological side it didn't work, but you did very well. Without notes. Without notes, and I do really appreciate you coming and introducing yourselves and introducing Boardwalk to Canmore. You obviously, you touched on affordability, you touched on, climate initiatives and more housing. And those resonate very well with us because we, of course, have some significant housing challenges here and affordability issues. And of course, you've heard the presentations earlier around the climate initiatives. So anything that you can do to contribute to the solutions in our community is very welcome. And I would look to council to see if there's any questions. Councillor Faubert.
It just came on. Thank you for your presentation. I'm curious, do you have any other land that you own in Canmore that you're looking at building on?
Not currently. Peaks is our first investment. So definitely, my group has been on the development side fairly focused on our existing communities, but actually just on the acquisition and growth strategy that we have, we identified a few new areas to grow and supplement. And so Canmore being a new area is a focus for growth. So I've reached out to, I believe it was Riley earlier on, or late last year, and just connected quickly. But we'll definitely want to, make those connections to yourselves and to staff members, just to understand the availability if there's, municipal lands or federal lands or private lands or provincial lands that we could partner in a number of different ways. As I mentioned, we've done so in the past, and we're fairly open and flexible to find solutions. So.
Yeah. Do you, at the Peaks, so you just purchased it this year, are you the second or the third owner?
I believe we're the second owner. Northview REIT or Northview Properties, Northern Properties, Northview REIT, and then they were acquired by Starlight, but essentially I believe Northview developed those lands a number of years ago, and Northview was acquired by Starlight Investments, and we purchased it from them. So I think we're essentially the second owners.
It was sort of confusing in my mind because I knew that there was three names.
Yeah,
and I didn't know if it was three owners. Yeah,
so kind of swallowed them up.
Yeah, it's my understanding sometimes when a real estate investment trust acquires a property that can affect rents by them going up. Do you intend to raise rents at the Peaks?
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's always the case. It may be. At the end of the day, we always look, and Andrew, you can comment on this, but what's happening in the community. And we always have our market rents that really reflect what's happening in the community. And that's really the only way we can remain competitive to ensure that obviously the investment on the income side is making sense, given with, transaction costs and cost of debt and so forth. But then also we need to make sure that, if we need to lower rents, we do that as well, because vacancy, occupancy, to have a thriving community is our highest goal. We'll prioritize that over having, higher rents and more vacancy. So, but yeah, Andy, you can maybe chat a bit about our pricing strategies. So.
Absolutely. So we do look at the market very closely. And we see where the competitors are at. And price accordingly. We are very value-based in our organization, and that not just adheres to what we provide in value, but also how we contribute. We don't want somebody's rent to go up $300 year over year. So we do look at market rent increases as costs. We all know costs do increase as well. We have to try and balance those as well. I've been talking to Teresa from the CCH group, and we actually recently had a meeting and a great discussion about the need for housing and the need for affordability and that need, and we're obviously continuing with that agreement of the 40 suites and working very very regularly with Teresa to fill those suites, because we obviously know there's a need for that.
Yeah, we have very high market rates. Very, and then are you working with a wait list? What's the demand? I wasn't on council at the time, but there were a number of approvals over a couple of years that saw 3 very significant purpose-built rental buildings, including the Peaks, come online. And at the time, there was questions about whether we had enough demand to fill all those units. And I feel like right now, we might have more than enough demand. So I was just curious.
A significant amount of demand for sure. And we see that also in Banff as well as in Canmore, that there is a demand for sure.
Yeah.
Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there is an agreement with the town of Canmore to provide under market rates for a number of years to come, correct?
That is correct. The number is 40, 32 2-bedrooms and 8 1-bedrooms. They are benchmarked 10% under market in Canmore. So the 2-bedrooms are $1,893, and the 1-bedrooms I believe are $1,690. I'm off on a couple of, but the 2-bedrooms are
And that does go for a number of years still. What was the original term of the agreement?
I believe it's 10 years. Yeah. It's a 10-year agreement, so we have 6 years left on the
It might even be like 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes. No, you're right. Yes, you're right. It's a 20-year agreement. There was a 10%.
Just didn't want it to hit the paper at 10.
Sorry,
if it was
20 years.
10 years is
Yeah, there was a 20% below market for the first couple of years of the threshold for the CCH, and then it got changed to 10 years. I apologize for the misinformation on that.
No, but we do really appreciate that. It's very important in our community. Councillor Graham.
Thank you very much for your presentation. With a history in investment real estate, rent-to-price ratios in Canmore haven't made sense in a long time. And I'm wondering, from an investment point of view, what brought you to town? Income, growth, what did you see here that you liked?
So, Councillor, thank you for the question. It's really the opportunity. Our business model and our strategy, we're fairly highly concentrated in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and we are looking for diversification and growth outside of our core markets. And we saw Banff actually respond particularly well through the last few challenging years, and we really wanted to expand that portfolio, because while it's Alberta base, which we know and we love, and we're long Alberta for a long time, but it has a much different return characteristic, much different risk profile. We do see a fairly tight housing supply in the Bow Valley currently, and likely for the forecast period for many years to come. So we feel that this is a great place to be, and it has shown to be really resilient over many years, and in different market cycles. It actually behaves quite differently than the rest of Alberta does during those down periods. So that's really important for us to manage risk, is having co-investments that react very differently over the same period of time.
Yeah, I think, like Councillor Forbauer is mentioning, the price of those investments and the need to make them fiscally viable. I see rents getting pushed in the next little while, and I just sensitive to the community and what is going on here, and the affordability crisis that we all see. So thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you again for coming here today, and thank you for all the information, and welcome to Canmore.
Great, thank you. Pleasure meeting you, and thank you so much. And I have to apologize for the presentation. I sent it in right on the deadline, so that one will be with me. But we'll make sure that that's available along with our contact info.
That would be great.
And please pass that along to our other neighbors, our community members. We'd love to get to know them.
Great, thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Yeah. Turning now to the minutes. Item C1. Does anybody have note any errors or omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, I will move approval of the minutes of April 19th, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. Call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And now we'll move to item D1, staff reports, the Georgetown exercise update. Deputy Chief Mertens, welcome to council.
Oh, okay, hang on. I need my notes. Andrew, help me. I can't do notes? No.
Well, you could show like this, and your notes. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, let's take our break right now, and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll come back at 25 to 3. All right, we are back. Deputy Chief Mertens, welcome to council.
Thank you.
The floor is yours as we talk about the Georgetown wildfire exercise.
All right. Well, thanks again, and I appreciate the help with the presentation and the printing. So good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. The Georgetown wildfire exercise is coming up, and I'm very happy that I get to be the one that comes today and gives you a little bit of an update on the planning process and what we can expect over the 2 days of the exercise. So why? Why are we doing this exercise? Well, this map has a big part to do with why we're doing this exercise. This is the wildfire behavior potential map from 2018, from 2018. And this map helped drive the wildfire mitigation strategy that has also been adopted by council. And it's part of why we are working so hard on all the wildfire mitigation that we've been doing. This exercise also fulfills one of our requirements under the Local Authority Emergency Management Regulation, or the LEMR. So the exercise itself, this will be the first full-scale field exercise done within the town in many years. It's a continuation of the smaller scale functional exercise we held in November. And this boots on the ground exercise allows us to really test the emergency plans we have in place. Members from our evacuation group can knock on doors and communicate directly with our residents. We can get an accurate timeline on how long it will really take us to evacuate a neighborhood. Members from our structure protection group can deploy sprinkler lines and determine whether or not our plan meets our reality. It provides us with an opportunity to work with our mutual aid partners and to engage multiple town departments in the emergency management process. So we're making it work through the FRIA grant process, and all our mutual aid partners are participating in kind. So this exercise is taking place on a Friday, Saturday, partly because it's important to train for real life, and incidents like this will not take place Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So this is a learning opportunity, and choosing these dates and times is part of the evaluation process. It's important to note that exercises are meant to point out challenges and weaknesses of the plans and not the people. So the fire starts Friday afternoon inside of Banff National Park. By 8 o'clock on Friday night, the fire will have crossed the boundary into the town of Canmore lands and into Kananaskis Improvement District lands. The fire will continue to grow and spread following reasonably typical fire behavior patterns, though it will be better behaved than you would normally expect to see. For the purposes of this exercise, our very well behaved fire will not jump the Trans-Canada Highway and will not jump the Bow River. Oh, yep. Sorry, better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So typically fires, now I need my glasses. So it won't jump the Bow River and it won't jump the Trans-Canada Highway. So typically fires settle in a little bit overnight and in the early morning hours. So we won't see much increased behavior until early afternoon of day 2. By this time, the fire has grown and embers are starting to spot ahead of the flame front. And by the end of the exercise, around 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, spotting is occurring inside of the Larch neighborhood. So one of the plans we'll test throughout this exercise is the evacuation plan. And it's a very important component of the exercise. So using zones identified in the plan, the evacuation alerts and orders will be issued and rescinded over the 2-day period. Teams will knock on every door and speak with as many residents as possible. Information provided will include details about the incident, steps residents can take to prepare, and information on reception centers and other forms of aid that might be required. The structure protection plan will also be tested throughout this exercise. And this plan helps us, at a glance, identifies our values at risk in each zone, such as critical infrastructure, roofing materials, and water sources. It also lists vegetation in the area and potential wildfire behavior. Finally, this plan identifies the recommended sprinkler line lays, which is kind of hard to see on this map, but it's the thin blue dotted line just at the edge. We'll be using the sprinkler equipment, or we'll be using equipment from our sprinkler protection unit trailer, or a structure protection unit trailer. Perimeter protection lines will also be established at the Canmore Nordic Centre and the west end of Harvey Heights using structure protection units from our mutual aid partners. And getting the word out is crucial. So community communication is also a critical component of this exercise, both before the exercise and during. We want to make sure that residents are aware there is an exercise taking place and that is only an exercise. Our great communications team has been working and been involved from the very beginning with creating messaging that will go through the town's main communication systems and streams. So we'll have print ads, the town website, and social media channels. And these are our partners. So this exercise has been months in the making, and we couldn't do it without all of these folks up here. So in addition to multiple town departments, municipal enforcement, parks, streets and roads, social services, planning, engineering, communications, finance, IT, public works, solid waste, CST, and fire, our mutual aid partners include Alberta Agriculture, Forestry, and Rural Economic Development, Parks Canada, Kananaskis Improvement District, and Kananaskis Emergency Services, RCMP, Alberta Parks, and Alberta Conservation Officers, Nakota Emergency Services, Banff Fire, Lake Louise Fire, Exshaw Fire, Calgary Emergency Management Agency, Canada Task Force 2, and the Alberta Emergency Management Agency. And that is, that's the update, if there's any questions.
Great, thank you very much for bringing this to council and to the committee of the whole. And you answered my question around communications. I was just wondering, when will those communications start so that people start to get heads?
Right.
So I'm hearing from the back seats, May 26th. Very good, so that we can capture it on the mic. Councillor Moy, you have a question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Martins, for the presentation. So you mentioned how this first one is a well-behaved fire. Is it the sort of thing where, like, the next exercise, when that occurs 3-4 years down the road, we'll take this data and use a more complex fire situation?
We will. Part of the reason we planned this as a well-behaved fire was because it's the first one we've done for a while, and we really kind of want to test what we have without overcomplicating things. Obviously, in the case of a real event, the fire would jump the Bow River and it would jump the Trans-Canada Highway. But, you know, for now, this is what we've decided. So future exercises, for sure. The fire would start in a different location. We would include different things as all components to the exercise.
Okay, great. And with regards to the sprinkler line at the Nordic Centre, how does that look? I just have friends that have always inquired about what the Nordic Centre strategy is for fires. Do they use the actual towers there? Is it like a hose that's laid out?
Yes. So there, we do have, so we can tie into their snowmaking system, which we would do in the event of a fire up there. And we also have lines drawn out on a map that kind of give us some good indication of where we should start putting sprinkler lines. Primarily, our focus would be to protect the structures that are up there. And, you know, as much as the forest will burn, hopefully around that. So structures would be our priority, and using the snowmaking system up there would help us do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank
very
you.
Informative, and I'm very happy that this exercise is taking place. So, good luck.
It'll be a good weekend.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so now, moving on to councillor updates. Are there any questions with regards to my report? Okay, then I'll move on to Councillor Faubert. Any questions on Councillor Faubert's report? Councillor Ma?
Thank you, Councillor Faubert. I was looking at the section on AEP, Extended Producer Responsibility Town Hall, and there's a section there where you said you can confirm that the provincial government will not give municipalities the first right of refusal to continue to deliver recycling in their communities. Could you speak to that a little bit more?
So the idea of first right of refusal is because we currently offer this service, we would be able to say we still want to do it, but instead we'll take the funding from industry instead of rate. That's an option in other jurisdictions, to my understanding, but it's not being considered here. So it could be possible that we completely divest from recycling because it gets taken over by industry.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, good answer. Any other questions of Councillor Faubert? Turning to Councillor Graham. Any questions there? Oh, Councillor Graham, you wanted to clarify something.
Thank you. Yeah, I called the TCK an AGM, and it wasn't an AGM. It was a Mayor, maybe you could help me out with the word for this.
It was a regular meeting followed by a social event.
Social event.
Yep.
Social event.
Yep.
Not an AGM.
More fun. More fun. Fun AGM.
And thank you for that, Councillor Graham. Any questions? Councillor Graham's report? Seeing none, moving to Councillor Hillstad. I had a question. I think you touched on this in your report. As far as the discussions or I wonder if you could comment, are there discussions actively going on or being planned for expanding eligibility to Canmore Community Housing product?
Yes, in the short. We've tasked administration with coming back with a new thing that broadens basically new programming to catch that missing component that falls outside of the current vital homes category but below market, so that's stuck in between where they don't qualify but they can't afford market housing. So we are looking into options there.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Hillstad? Now I'll move to Councillor Ma's report. I had some questions around IRC. And
It's waiting for that.
So you indicate in your report there's significant enthusiasm for IRC to help with issues such as off-leash dogs, fruit trees, and human-wildlife encounters within the corridors. So what is it that, okay, there's some enthusiasm, but I'm just wondering how it fits with their... How does that fit with the terms of reference and what are they proposing happen with those issues?
So what you're referring to the terms of reference, Mayor Krausert, are you talking about the stuff with environmental assessments or?
Yeah, the terms of reference for the Environmental Advisory and Review Committee.
Yes. I think what they're looking to do is broaden their scope of how they can help the community. So they're still keen to provide input on terms of reference for environmental assessments, but at the same time, they recognize that environmental assessments don't come that as regularly as other things, so they would like to help with these other issues too. Yeah.
So that's an interesting discussion because, of course, IRC cannot expand its terms of reference unilaterally. It's a council committee. And so if there's some recommendations coming, that would be a good good thing to be part of that discussion. And I am wondering if the IRC terms of reference need to be updated, because since it was developed, our rules have changed, and we now do third-party reviews of environmental impact statements. And so it may be that there's a redundancy there now that needs to be addressed. So I'm just thinking that should be an ongoing discussion.
There's a lot of phones going off here. Hold on. There's we've been talking with Caitlin Van Gaal about this stuff.
Okay, so it's in the works, and
yeah, I do know that the IRC is like keen to maintain providing input.
Okay. Yeah. And Dr. Cottle, did you have something you wanted to add?
I do just want to, I appreciate that IRC is keen, but I just really want to reiterate Councillor Krausart's point that they have a terms of reference, or Mayor Krausart, sorry, I'm sorry, Mayor Krausart. Yeah, that's right. Where's the jar? Yeah, just call me Lisa. That they have a terms of reference that they must act within, and so acting outside of it is not appropriate and would need to come to council for approval.
Councillor Moore?
Yeah, well, we're looking at these things. There was stuff where their policy was not aligned with another piece, so we're trying to come to the conclusion with that. There was an inconsistency there, so we're trying to sort this out. Yeah.
Along those same lines, the very next point is that that IRC is undertaking to review and provide feedback on the terms of reference. I'm just looking to administration. Has that been requested from the town?
I am meeting with the manager of planning tomorrow morning to discuss how we're going to handle this. Typically, the Environmental Advisory Review Committee does review terms of reference for environmental impact statements driven by the town, because this is a bit of a different beast, and it's the province leading the environmental impact assessment. We have worked with Stone Creek and the province to say that we'll ensure that any items that we would want to capture in what typically would be an EIS for the town could be reflected in the province's environmental impact assessment. We just need to sort out now what that would look like for IRC's involvement, because they would not typically be involved, obviously, in provincial environmental impact assessment terms of references. That sounds really bureaucratic. But anyways, I am meeting with the manager of planning tomorrow to make sure that we proceed in a way forward that reflects and protects the town's interests, and also recognizes that this is a provincial endeavor at this point.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that clarity, because that aligns with my understanding. My understanding is that the Environmental Advisory and Review Committee is tasked with providing advice to council on matters for which we would like to receive advice. And they're not an independent body. They do not have an independent voice. They cannot make recommendations on behalf of the town or themselves except to council. And council will not necessarily be providing any comment on the terms of reference. It's a provincial process. And so, if there's individuals on those that would like to provide individual feedback, they are certainly welcome to do so. But I just want to make sure that we all have to operate within our parameters. And if there's a proposed change of parameters, we need to go through the motions of bringing it back to council. And as long as we're all of that same understanding.
I would generally agree. I think the nuance here is because it is a provincial effort that is requiring an environmental impact assessment, we don't want to, after the year or two or however many it's going to take to go through that process, where they do come to the town if they need, for example, a land use change, that we don't require an environmental impact statement that covers, that would require them to cover in many ways a lot of the points that they would have already addressed with the province. So we are trying to figure out how to align the provincial process with satisfying what we would anticipate to be municipal needs down the road, and not require the landowner to do the same work twice, essentially. So I think there's just a nuance in there. Sure. That we're working.
Sure, and as long as it's providing advice to the town in accordance with their terms of reference.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. Any other questions of Councillor Ma's report? Seeing none. Councillor Mayor's report. Seeing none. And Councillor McCallum's report. Oh, Councillor Faubert.
I'm missing a page. Councillor McCallum's report in my agenda goes from Bow Valley Regional Housing to her extras.
I'm thinking that might have been printed off before it was removed, because I'm on the electronic copy and it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Electronic copies.
Yeah, there you go. Think of it as a service that Councillor McCallum provides so that you can take notes. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so no questions.
I would call that an agenda review, but we don't review council reports.
All right, so then we'll move then to the administrative updates. And I'll look first, we'll go section by section. Section A, Executive Office. I note that the report there speaks very much to what we have recognized this afternoon with the raising of the pride flag, and it works very much aligned with our principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Seeing no questions there, turning to section B, Municipal Services. Any questions? Councillor Ma?
Just taking a look at a food truck pilot location update. It says Riverside Park food truck location was swapped out for Benchlands Trail. Just rationale for Benchlands Trail as a new spot.
It underwent some feedback throughout a lot of town administration, just as being another good spot with high traffic. It would be popular with vendors, hopefully, and a lot of foot traffic as well. So that's why that was chosen as the alternative spot.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions under section B, Municipal Services? Seeing none, we'll move to section C, Corporate Services. Any questions there? Seeing none, moving to section D, Municipal Infrastructure. I had a question, the question I want to ask was addressed earlier by Councillor Faubert, but I was just wondering if the GM of Municipal Infrastructure would like to speak to the fact that municipalities will have no right of first refusal recycling. What is this potentially going to mean for us, or is it too early to say?
Sorry, I'm just flipping through my pages right now. I would suggest it is still too early to say. Yeah.
Do we have a sense of when extended producer responsibility has been implemented elsewhere? Is it eventually like a transition over time, or do we see like a one fell swoop, all of a sudden we don't do recycling? Like, do you have any sense of what's happened in other places, or?
I don't off the top of my head, no,
Okay.
but it's certainly something I could look into, or maybe Councillor Faubert.
Yeah, Councillor
would like
Faubert,
to
you've been
enlighten us.
following this.
So there's a number of different experiences by municipalities. One of the potentials is an increase to the different types of things that can be recycled, which would be an improvement of the recycling system for a municipality. In BC, a number of it really depends upon your size and what you have in place currently, and the rules that the province puts in place. One of the downsides of the consultation that Alberta Environment and Parks is currently doing, for example, the seminar where they confirm they will not give municipalities first right of refusal, which is something that I've been hearing municipalities ask for, it wasn't recorded to be put online for other people to watch. So a lot of the information that's coming is coming in live streams, and so, you know, I'm trying to take notes, but it all depends upon how the organizations for industry are set up to begin with, because they may decide that they want municipalities to continue to provide the service and they just fund it, right? So there are still a lot of municipalities that provide recycling under EPR in other provinces.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that option of like, if we know we can deliver what our community wants, because no matter what happens, the community is going to look to us for questions and answers as to why recycling is changing. So and I think as the service provider currently, the transition can either be very costly for us or very effective. Because if we have to break contracts, for example, with haulers or landfill, like not landfills, haulers or end users of the recycled product, that is something that could negatively affect us. If we have to divest in our material recycling facility and all the equipment there, what does that mean? So it is too early, but it's also exactly the time when I would like information. So it's hard, but I'm every 2 weeks to 3 weeks, there's a session and I'm on it, listening and trying to absorb. And the Alberta Municipalities Committee, Environmental and Sustainability Committee is very engaged. They have arranged for like the sessions by Alberta Recycling Council. They've arranged for presentations from jurisdictions in BC and Ontario about their experiences. So there's a lot out there in terms of how this has been rolled out in other places. So you would think that we could improve upon the process.
Right. Okay, well, we will stay tuned and hopefully get information sooner than later.
I know nothing.
Thank you. Any other questions on Section D, municipal infrastructure? All right, seeing none, we'll now move to G1, Council Resolution Action List. Does anybody have any comments or questions around that? Anything, of course, there's the one item that's marked as completed, so it will fall off of the list for next time. Okay, seeing no other questions. Item H is just for our information, correspondence. And so we'll move to item I, which is an in-camera item on contract update. So I will move that we go in camera, call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. we wouldn't? Okay. I dropped the ball there. We're back. All right, so we're back. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. So I'll move that we adjourn this meeting. All those in favor? Carried unanimously.